The rise of the UFC has been historic. In 20 years, it's gone from an outlier on the world stage to an integral part of ESPN's future business, and it's still growing. Behind it all has been one man, Dana White. His stated ambition is to turn UFC into the biggest sport in the world, and he's as big of a character as you can find.
Shut the up, you scumbag.
Quicktake's chief correspondent, Jason Kelly, recently sat down with Dana in Las Vegas to understand his plan for global domination. I'm meeting Jason at Barfly in New York to hear more. So Jason, I have watched a UFC fight before. I would not call myself a UFC fan.
Yeah.
But it's massive, and I didn't realize that.
Full confession, I wasn't a big fan either. I didn't know that much about it. Like you, I sort of see everything through the lens of business. I think what's fascinating is increasingly, if you show up at a bar on a fight night, it's gonna be on all these TVs. And so I kind of wanted to figure out what was going on. So here are the numbers. They buy this thing for $2 million in 2001. Dana White and a couple brothers from Las Vegas, the Fertittas. Today, there are a couple estimates that put the value of the UFC at 10 billion with a B. 2 million to 10 billion, 20 years.
Dana White, this guy is somebody who is very outspoken, very public, but he doesn't do a lot of interviews.
He doesn't do a lot, certainly about the business. And so I did work my way into sort of the inner sanctum and actually got into Dana White's office with him to sort of break it down during fight week.
It's $2 million.
Right.
Like, I mean, and look what it's become.
The landscape in the backyard is worth $2 million.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's true.
Right.
No, it's crazy. We bought the company, and this wasn't allowed on pay-per-view. Porn was on pay-per-view, and you could pay for it, but you could not pay for the UFC. We bought the company, and our goal was to get it onto free TV.
I mean, one of the interesting things to think about is UFC started back in 2005, essentially having to pay to be on Spike TV. Spike TV. No shade to Spike TV, but it's not ESPN, it's not the worldwide leader. Now, UFC is really the anchor of ESPN Plus, the new streaming service. And that week in Vegas, and certainly every fight week coming up, you cannot be on ESPN, whether it's on TV.com, on the mobile app, without seeing UFC so prominently. And this is, in many ways, this is what Dana always envisioned.
But some people passed on him, so I'm curious how he's able to do that in 20 years.
Sheer force of will, in many ways. I mean, this is a guy, he's kind of one of one in many ways. There are very few people who have such a sort of ferocious and kind of so themselves personality, for better or worse. I mean, he is a polarizing figure in many ways. There are a lot of people who don't like his politics. They don't like the way that he sort of acts publicly. They don't agree with some of the things he says about the pandemic. He's been very dismissive of COVID in many ways, and sort of, to the extent that it was actually helpful to the business, sort of plowed through it. This was the first business to come back.
You know, the bottom line is the system worked. A lot can be learned by what we're doing here, not just for professional sports, but, you know, sending people back to work and lots of other things in life.
So it'll be interesting to see now that the UFC is very mainstream in some ways, like, how does he maintain his Dana-ness?
I love that, Dana-ness. And so unapologetically Dana.
Yeah.
But he's not just Dana anymore.
Right.
Right? I mean, he can't be just Dana anymore.
He can't, to some extent, but one of the checks that he has actually is part of I think one of the greatest odd couples in sports business right now, Ari Emanuel. You probably remember him as the basis of Ari Gold on the show Entourage.
Get James Cameron on the phone, get Dana Gordon on the phone. This is now the biggest agency in the world, and I'm the head of it.
It would be Ari and Endeavor who would ultimately buy a controlling stake in the UFC for $4 billion. Remember, this was a company that Fertittas and Dana bought for $2 million, roughly 15 years earlier.
And since then, Ari and Endeavor have been really instrumental in letting Dana be Dana, but also kind of helping it be even more ambitious than it was before.
They're still facing a lot of controversy, though. I mean, anybody who looks online will see that they have an antitrust suit against them. I mean, how do they navigate that? What's their plan?
Yeah, this could be probably one of the biggest obstacles that's out there for them. And it really comes down to the idea that they're not being fair with how much they pay their fighters.
On our way over to the courthouse now.
The athletes are paid only about 20% of the total revenues of the league, compared with up to 50% that you see in other professional leagues. UFC argues that they do pay their fighters fairly, they do take care of them, that fighter pay has increased 600% over the past few years, and that is commensurate with what they are doing as a business. You know, normally in these cases, the executives, you know, they won't comment, they shut down. Dana takes it straight on. Ari takes it straight on.
Everybody makes money here. Everybody makes a good living. And there's enough money to reinvest back into the sport.
Yeah.
Grow the sport and grow the brand. We're growing a real business. We're heading into this country where everybody gets a trophy and everybody should get this and everybody should get that. When I leave, maybe it'll turn, this place will be left to the hyenas and then come in and rip this thing apart. But as long as I'm here, yeah, it ain't gonna happen.
So Jason, where does this UFC Endeavor partnership go from here?
Well, I mean, I think it's mutually beneficial for both sides, obviously, in the sense that Endeavor now has this model, nice shot, that it can now show to Wall Street and say, this is what this company is gonna be. When we talk about the merging of talent and entertainment and live sports and all those different things, like now we can say, we have the UFC, this is what it looks like. So from the UFC's perspective, you know, they've got this partner now that is very willing and eager to take them global. And that's definitely where Dana is thinking. And from his perspective, if they can survive 2020, not only survive, but thrive, I'm gonna make this shot. They can do anything.
Hey, thanks for watching Bloomberg Quick Take Now. Subscribe to our channel to see the biggest stories the moment they happen from around the world. And tune in to our 24/7 live stream for global news coverage, documentaries, interviews, deep dives, and shows on the stories that you care most about.